Hi, Painting 2 and Painting 3. I'm making this video to talk about a software that you could use for your portrait projects. So Painting 2 will be creating a self-portrait in the style of Lucian Freud using black and white acrylic. And then Painting 3 will be creating either a self-portrait or a portrait in the style of Francois Neely using acrylic or gouache. So please make sure that you're following the directions on Google Classroom about your specific assignment. I wanted to bring up this software because not all of you have access to photo editing software at home like Photoshop. So this is a free software that you could use online if you would like to edit photos. So this is called Photopea. Here, if you look at the website up here, it's photopea.com. You don't have to download anything. And it is basically like Photoshop. It has some of the same qualities and characteristics and tools, but it's more limited. So you can't do everything that you could with Photoshop on this app. So I'm going to show you how I edited a picture that I'm going to use for my projects. I will be creating both projects for you guys as reference examples. So the process of editing the photo is similar for both, but some of the requirements in terms of colors and light source and all that stuff is different. So just, again, make sure that you're reading the requirements. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go to File, New Project, and I labeled mine Portrait. You can label it whatever you want to. And the width is 9 inches and the height is 12 inches. So this will be relevant to the paper that you have in your kit, the watercolor paper. If you want to flip it, the paper that you have now, if you want your portrait to be this way, it's 9 by 12. If you have a wider picture this way horizontally, just flip it so it's 12 by 9. Pretty basic. The next thing is that you want to make sure the DPI or the resolution of the image is 300. 300 is going to get you the best quality and detail in your picture, and it's able to capture some of those things at a higher resolution so that you can zoom in and paint them very specifically with your detail brush. It should say 72 when you first log in here, but make sure that it's 300. We're not going to work with any of these templates. You're just going to hit create. Okay, so it should come up as this unless you flip it 12 by 9. So it'll be horizontal. The next thing that you're going to do is you should have a picture that you're going to use for reference, either of yourself or of another person if you're in Painting 3. You're going to take that picture, put it on your desktop on your computer, and then click and drag it onto Photopea. I did that on my desktop and it worked just fine. So I don't want to log out of this because my thing will stop recording, but I did it and here it is. So I apologize you have to look at my face again twice, but this is the picture I want to use as reference. So with this picture, I'm making sure that I have dramatic lighting. So I have a light source that's coming from the right side here, and I have highlights, midtones, and then shadows. With your portrait as well, you want to make sure that it's cropped from the shoulders up. Part of your head could be cut off if you want to. This is really the focal point, eyebrow to chin of your face. You can have your hair any way you want to, glasses, no glasses, smiling, not smiling, totally up to you. The dramatic lighting is going to help you with your painting, whether you're in Painting 2 or Painting 3, because that's going to affect the palette that you have and making sure that your face looks three-dimensional in the painting and not flat. So my picture right now is in color. So it might be easier for you depending on the palette that you're using. If you're in Painting 3, you can play with the hue and the saturation to get different colors. If you're in Painting 2, you want to transform it into black and white because that could be a reference for you. So either way, you're going to go to, let's see, where am I looking? Adjustments, and underneath image adjustments, there are several different options. So if you're in painting 2, you're first going to change it to black and white. Okay, so you click on that, it changes it to black and white, and then we'll talk about, changing the intensity of the value, making it more bright or more dark. If you are in painting 3, you could play with the hue and saturation of the color. So you could make things really vibrant and bright, maybe neon, maybe a certain kind of color. If you want more pink, you want more green. So these are your 2 options here. Just for this video, I'm going to do black and white just to keep it simple. But if I click on black and white, I'm not going to mess with any of these right now. If you want to mess with them, go for it. But the black and white that's on here is just fine. So I'm going to hit OK. If you want your colors to be more intense, you're going to go back to Image Adjustments, and you have brightness and contrast as a way to edit your filter. So the brightness here, if I move this up, it's going to make my image brighter. So all those highlights are going to get more white, which, if you have a darker picture, maybe you want that. The contrast here, if I lower it, it doesn't make my shadows quite as deep. If I raise it, those blacks get even deeper. Does that make sense? So playing with the brightness and the contrast can help you get that range of values that you're looking for. And everybody's picture is going to be different depending on the light source. So make sure that you have a good range of values. When we made that value scale, there were 10 different values. So this picture that I have right now, kind of playing with that brightness, lowering it a little bit, but then upping the contrast, I have the range of values that I would like. Okay. If this is enough for you, great. If you're able to paint with this reference, you don't have to do this next step. But for those people that are sort of struggling and they're thinking, well, how do I start this? Where am I putting these colors? Am I blending them? Am I leaving them? Both artists in painting 2 and painting 3 work with planes of color, meaning they're not blending everything. It's not meant to look like a hyper-realistic picture. It's meant to be more painterly or showing the brush strokes next to one another. So there's an option for you if you really like editing photos to change the filter here. So we're going to go to Filter and Filter Gallery, and there's several different options with this filter gallery. And I apologize if it's a little slow because my image is big. So the first one that it pops up with, or at least pops up with for me, is glowing edges. Now this looks really cool. If you wanted to mess with a picture and paint this later for a project, go for it. We're going to focus on something called paint daubs, which is, it's sort of ironic that we're taking a software, editing it to look like a painting, and then painting from that. I get it. I understand. But we're going to use paint daubs as a way to simplify the planes of color in the face. So I'm sorry that you have to look up a close-up of my face, but you can see from this image that it's softening up some of these planes of color. So, there's a highlight here that's clear. It's a circle or an oval of white. This is white. This is white. This is white. All of this stuff. And this will translate to black and white. It's just in color now because I haven't flattened all my layers down. So you can play with the size, you can play with the brush type. I kind of like the wide and sharp just for trying to get more planes on the face. And it does take a minute to load, but you can see like in this eye, for example, this has, one plane of color that's like a lighter brown next to a darker brown, or even in these highlights here. So this is simplifying it a little bit more for me. I still have a lot to paint. I have a lot of different ranges of colors, but I don't have to think so hard about it because it's there. It's a shape. It's something as reference for me. Anyway, so I can play with the size if I want it a little bit bigger, if I want it a little bit smaller, depending on the sharpness of the image. So this is just an extra added step for you to kind of play with to help you with the reference of your painting. And it's totally optional. I just think for me, especially, oh, that's really blurry. For me, it helps me see colors next to one another. as opposed to everything is blending in a perfect transition and hyper realistic. It simplifies it more in my brain. So again, it's totally up to you whether or not you want to use this. I will say it does take a little bit to work, especially if your image is pretty large. So I edited my picture and it looks like this. So I'm going to use this picture for my Painting 2 reference. And then I will have a similar picture for my Painting 3 reference, but it'll be in color. So if you have questions about the software, please let me know. From here, you can just save as a smart object, save as a Photoshop file. You can export it as a PNG file, a JPEG, whatever is going to save on your computer. But you want to make sure that once you edit the photo, you save it and you don't lose it. Because then you can have your screen or your iPad or your phone available for you to look at reference as you're painting. So hopefully this was a little bit more helpful in using a software to edit photos. Again, please let me know if you have questions or if you want me to do some more editing with you online. Good luck with the reference. Thanks, guys.